Peppa Pig may look like a very simple cartoon at first glance, but did you realize that the show's episodes are packed with incredible little secrets? Some of them reveal other sides of the characters we like so much, showing that everything we thought we knew about them could actually be a lie. Think we're exaggerating? Then check out this scene from the Fun Fair episode, where some of Peppa Town's residents are seen having fun on a Ferris wheel. All the adults are there with their children, except for Dr. Brown Bear. For some reason, he's right next to Mrs. Cow. It really looks like the two of them are a couple. And if you think that's impossible because these characters are married to other people, well, that wasn't exactly the case back then. Miss Bear isn't married to Dr. Brown Bear at all, but to another bear who doesn't wear glasses. And as for Mrs. Cow, yes, she's married to Mr. Bull, right? Yes, but that's something very recent. The two tied the knot in 2024 in the episode Wedding Day. But the Fun Fair episode aired way back in 2009, long before Mrs. Cow even started dating Mr. Bull. So basically, Mrs. Cow had probably been looking for a boyfriend for quite a while, and Dr. Brown Bear was one of her old relationships. We don't know if it was something serious or just a short fling with a few dates. I mean, we really hope they're not still going on dates, right? It would be awful if Mrs. Cow was cheating on Mr. Bull, especially since he already has a pair of horns. He doesn't need another. And that's just the first of the 9 hidden secrets nobody noticed in Peppa Pig. So get ready and jump right in. It's time for another Cinewave. One of the biggest mysteries in Peppa Pig has to do with the animals. Not the ones that walk and talk like humans, but the ones that act exactly like real-life animals. And some fans noticed there's another feature that makes them different from the other characters. Know what it is? All of the humanized animals in the show always have both eyes visible, even when we see them from the side. Some of the non-rational animals are drawn the same way, but there are others where only one eye can be seen. 2 examples are the chickens and the parrots. It's kind of weird when you stop to think about it. Some people believe that Peppa, along with her family and friends, actually has 4 eyes, 2 on each side of the face. That would explain why one pair of eyes is always visible no matter what side we're looking at. But a producer of the show revealed that this isn't true, and that they all only have 2 eyes. The reason we see both eyes no matter what side of the characters is showing is much simpler. It's a kid's cartoon with a very simple art style, just a representation. If that's the case, what's the excuse for the animals that only show 1 eye? If the others only have 2 eyes that are always visible, the same rule should apply to this other group. Or is it that chickens and other animals like them, for some strange reason, only have 1 eye in Peppa Pig's universe? The Phantom Door. Another thing we can find in Peppa Pig are little mistakes that completely break the logic of certain scenes, but only the sharpest fans manage to catch them at the moment. This happens in the episode where Grandpa and Granny Pig are babysitting the kids while Mummy and Daddy Pig go out together. When Mummy and Daddy return, they come into the house through a door that's located in the living room, right behind the TV. But if you take a look at other episodes, you'll notice that this door doesn't exist, and the house entrance is actually on the opposite side, outside of the living room. Behind that door, there should only be a wall. The animators really messed up on that one. It's not like there aren't episodes that focus on this part of the house, like the one where Daddy Pig hangs a picture on that very wall. There's definitely no door there. But in the end, this kind of mistake is super common in shows as big as Peppa Pig. None of us can really say we've never made a mistake, right? And if you also love spotting these hard to notice details, drop a comment down below with #secrets. Parking lot. Another continuity mistake can be found when Daddy Pig goes to buy cement at a store with his kids, and it has to do with the building's floors. The first 2 floors are a parking garage, while the upper floors are the actual supermarket. So far, so good. But when the Pig family members leave the store, they get into an elevator and Peppa presses the button that takes them to the very top floor, and then they suddenly show up in the parking lot. None of that makes sense when we remember that the parking lot isn't above the store. It's on the lower levels. So yeah, this is yet another slip-up the animators made while developing the episode. They didn't really think it through before having the little piggy press that button, not realizing that it made no sense for the elevator to go up. But honestly, it was such a tiny detail that only a few sharp-eyed viewers noticed, and it doesn't actually affect the episode's quality. The toy basket. Finally, another detail that looks like a mistake happens in the Tooth Fairy, when Peppa loses a tooth and decides to put it under her pillow to get a coin from the Tooth Fairy. But the error has nothing to do with the fairy itself. It's about the toy basket in Peppa and George's bedroom. In the scene, the kids are lying in their bunk bed and the parents are standing in front of them. You can clearly see the toy basket behind the parents, but in the very next shot, it simply vanishes, and there isn't a single trace of it. Then, right after that, the basket reappears as if it had never gone missing. But we know the truth, sneaky basket. This is the kind of mistake where we can actually understand the animator's side, since they simply forgot to include the basket for a few seconds of animation. And because the basket wasn't the focus of the scene anyway, it's kind of normal that they slipped up on that little detail. Evie's birth. Now, let's move away from mistakes and talk about other kinds of secrets in Peppa Pig that very few people noticed. Or better yet, about Evie Pig. You know, Peppa's little sister who was born recently. She seems to have a curious connection with the grandchildren of Charles III, the current King of England. Anyone who follows the Pig family's life knows very well that Mummy Pig's whole pregnancy was followed closely by the world ever since it was announced on a British TV show. From that moment on, news reports and new episodes kept showing the little baby growing inside her mom's belly until she was finally born. The thing is, her birth took place at the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital in London. This is an exclusive maternity ward where the oldest grandchildren of King Charles III were also born. Prince William's kids, Louis, Charlotte, and George. Yes, one of them is also named George, but that little boy was born in 2013. Peppa's brother, however, first appeared back in 2004. So, draw your own conclusions. Evie being born in that very place was definitely not a coincidence, especially because her birth was treated with a lot of importance and carried the feeling of a royal birth, as a way of paying homage to English culture, which is so deeply tied to kings and queens. But we know you'd rather stay tuned to your favorite cartoons. And that's exactly what will happen if you hit that subscribe button. How about it? Music albums. Do you like music? The artists on Peppa Pig's production team sure seem to. And not just the children's songs we hear in some episodes of the show, but also older and classic music. At least that's what they hint at in the roller disco episode, where there are a few references to older and incredible bands that most Peppa Pig fans don't even know about, simply because they're too young. On a table full of vinyl records, some of them are related to the Peppa universe, like a record featuring Mr. Potato. However, the table also has a black record cover with a white triangle and a rainbow. That's actually the cover of The Dark Side of the Moon by the rock band Pink Floyd. It's considered one of the most iconic images in the history of music. Another cover that shows up has the image of a baby swimming in a pool, and that's a really good reference to another album cover that every rock fan will remember, Nevermind by Nirvana, a record that was hugely successful in the 90s and 2000s, but is still remembered to this day. Who would have thought that the Peppa Pig animators were fans of older music to the point of sneaking in these references, right? The Queen. Queen Elizabeth II is one of the most important figures in England and in the world in general. So much so that she even appeared in episodes of Peppa Pig, which, let's not forget, is a British cartoon. The show loves making references to the British royal family, and the biggest one was definitely the inclusion of the late Queen in Peppa's universe. But here's the catch. The Queen appeared in the cartoon before the real Elizabeth II passed away in 2022. Since then, the character has never shown up in the show again. And not just to avoid reminding people that Elizabeth II is no longer with us. In fact, the Queen character also lost her life in the world of Peppa Pig. This isn't directly addressed in the cartoon itself, but it was revealed in a tribute posted on social media and also in the video game Peppa Pig World Adventures. That makes the Queen the only character who appeared alive in the show and then died at some point. A secret far too dark to be spoken about in the cartoon, but it's the harsh truth. Dottie. Aunt Dottie is Mummy Pig's sister, and she was one of the last members of the Pig family that we got to meet. Before Evie, of course. She appeared only in the Thanksgiving episode, released in 2024. However, a secret that not many people realized is that she had already been mentioned long before that, in the episode Horsey Twinkletoes, where Peppa and George are given a toy horse as a gift from Dottie. In case you don't remember when that episode aired, it was back in 2011. That's right, Aunt Dottie had already been mentioned about 13 years before finally being introduced to us. It's crazy to think that she had been invented all that time ago and only showed up now. What else have the Peppa Pig writers already created and are still keeping hidden from fans of this show? So, want to keep having fun? Just click on one of the two videos we've left on your screen. Thanks, and see you next time.